Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to eHeroes. Now, our next guest, the last time we saw her was episode 33, and we talked about the women who wow. And, a lot of things have changed over the last 2.5 years. And we had this little thing called the pandemic that really wreaked havoc. So I wanted to bring back Michelle Pippin and talk about all the things, well, that kind of distract us, but how we can kind of move forward and be better at who we are and what we do and the women who have businesses, how we can support them. So welcome, Michelle, and thanks for being here.
Oh, it's such an honor. I was so excited to be invited back. And I was sitting there thinking like I'm preparing for an event this week. So I'm flying out on Wednesday, but I cannot wait to go back and listen to the episode I was on before, because I sometimes feel like I'm a little bit of a boring repeat guest because I am the same year to year to year, right? So like I am like you, like I found a spouse, right? Now we're 22 years in, we live actually in the same house so there's a lot of stuff about me that's the same. So it's thrilling to be invited back a second time.
Yeah, we're in February will be 33 years for us, and
That's
and
awesome.
it just there's a lot of constant. There is some dynamic changes because of kids, grandkids, and but by and large, everything is consistent. It stays the same. We know what we have to do, but the pandemic kind of twisted things and distorted things and and made us rethink how society is. And honestly, we're doing a little bit more prepping. I never thought we would.
Yep.
Setting things aside, making sure that not only the business runs consistently, that we have a lot of money set aside, and I just feel that there's a lot of people out there chasing the dream that they could have accomplished a long time ago had they just stayed focused and being consistent.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like people jump from shiny object to shiny object, and I totally understand the urge to do that, right? And there are some amazing salespeople out there. We are talking before we press record about that a
Yeah.
little bit, but to me, the principles of successful business, right? Remain the same. They're the same as they were for our like ancestors,
Right.
prior to the Industrial Revolution. The principles of asking someone to buy, the principles of following up with a prospect. 150 years ago, they didn't have any funnels or they didn't have social media. They had to network in the street, but it was very simple, right? It was like, I have corn and you have shoes for my horse, and let's
Yeah.
let's figure out how we can do this. Do you need corn this week? And it's something that we've lost sight of as we are experts, the gurus, the people who are getting paid handsomely to teach us about what success is. They're complicating it to such a point. It feels like my brand new kitten, who's a nightmare, by the way, but he chases his tail, right? He just spins, and sometimes he flips, and it's funny to watch, but the poor thing, he's chasing his tail. And there's a lot of that going on in business.
Yeah. This morning it was kind of ironic because I'm going through my emails and we all get spam. Well, I get this email. It says, hi, Rob. We don't know each other, but we're fellow entrepreneurs, blah, blah, blah. I work with startups. And I just kind of lost it. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not a startup. I've been doing this for 27 years as an entrepreneur. And, you probably scraped my email from LinkedIn, and that's how you found me. And, I had this urge to reply. And I thought, I have better things to do. I'm just going to,
Yep.
but, and that's the problem is that startups get inundated with all kinds of crap. And then they sometimes don't have direction. But if you just pick up a book, you can pick up all 30 of mine. I mean, they're out there. There's always life lessons in there that you can learn from. And I have this kind of curmudgeon approach when it comes to social media. It's my sarcastic upbringing, but I look at things in a different light because I know that either one, people are trying to scam me, or two, Again, it's just another shiny object I don't need,
That's right.
and so it's like, oh, is that a buzzword, startup? Is that, are you going to really help me? No, you're going to take my money and now I'm never going to see you again. And that's how it is. And the pandemic made things worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the crap that people are being sold is glossy and shiny and glittery crap, right? But it still stinks. And business is hard, but it's not complicated, right? It's not easy, but it's not like difficult and confusing.
Right.
I think that people lack focus, and that's why they're exhausted. It's like they're exerting aimless energy, right, in whatever direction. And so, it's like, well, maybe this will work, or maybe that'll work, and they don't sort of apply sort of I take a common sense approach to everything, right? So like when I look at my day, a common question I'll ask myself is like, everything I have planned today, does it naturally and logically lead to the outcome that I want, right? So if right now you're watching this and you're like, you know what, Michelle, like, hey, I'd love to scale and I'd love to have a lifestyle business, but right now my bills got to get paid, right? Like right now I'm behind on this payment, or I've got this payment coming up. I have been there. I am married to a public school teacher. I invested $50, which was 25% of my life savings at the time, right, to start my business. I know what it is to have to make a payment arrangement to the freaking power company and be in desperate if they didn't accept it, and
Right.
worried about your mortgage payment. And so, but if that's where you are, then make your focus conversations with people that you can help. So you can say, hey, Rob, I can help you with that. Here are a couple ways that we can go, right? If paying bills is your focus, forget the funnels, forget the social media, forget the blogging. I'm a blogger. I'm a glorified blogger. It's what I do, right? But if I got to pay the bills, I'm going to have to sell one-to-one, which is what I did in the early days, right? And you've got to set up conversations where you can help somebody and tell them how and tell them how much. If your problem is you've gotten too many clients, and now you've got plenty of money coming in, but you're exhausted, then your focus is maybe on getting that first assistant or whatever it is, right? We've got to have more common sense applied to business. When you become an entrepreneur, common sense doesn't go out the window. It's far more important.
Yeah. And I've been finding a lot of people have been trading their dreams for dollars, and earning money will come, but focusing on that dream of yours, whether it takes you, one step at a time, that'll blossom into something huge. But they'll say, well, my entrepreneurial dream isn't working right now, so I'm going to go work in a factory. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to do that. You never come back, So, if you're going to spend your time, spend it on building your own business, developing stuff, having common sense. I understand bills need to be paid. I get that. I've been there, done that. When I was first starting out, I had, a string of jobs that I didn't like, but I had a family to raise. I worked 2 jobs, went to school, did this. I did what I had to do.
That's right.
And having my own business, I got something in my eye, sorry. I worked 14, 18 hours a day to make, 25 cents after paying taxes and whatnot. But you look at it and say, well, that doesn't make sense. Why are you putting in that many hours to make so little money? But here I am now. I've been doing this for a long time. I work on average 3 to 4 hours a day. I'm making more money than I ever thought possible. But if it wasn't for all those beginning years sticking with it, I wouldn't have not been here to get to the place I am now. So.
That's so important. That's so important. And, while I quit my job, when I was very young mother, my oldest is 23 years old. But when I quit my job, I went into business for myself, but I quickly kind of created a high paying job for myself, right? It wasn't my dream business, and it paid the bills. And like you said, it made a lot of money. And then I kind of treated business I have now, right? I kind of treated that as a side hustle. I my own little dream, which is the community I have. I took my own little dream and I treated it like a client, right? And I set aside time for it, just like I did my paying clients. And because I got to where I was, I was paying the bills, I was making a lot of money. I felt that relief, from the financial pinch, I guess. But I was getting myself into a success that I didn't like. And I'm never willing to give up my life to make a living, right? Like my priorities were, I could never really work 14 or 18 hours a day because I homeschooled my kids and I was like nursing for a gazillion years straight. And you know what I'm saying? I love those early days. I love them. I learned so much. But like you, now it's like, because I built my business in like 20-minute chunks of time and nap time and whatever, like you, now I'm maybe 3 or 4 hours a day and I can hike every day if I want. And I get to go and, visit with my mom and I get to go to the spa and I still get to keep all these plates moving. Right. And, but I think something you said was so important. You stuck with it, right? It wasn't like you were willing to do that, for 6 months to see if it worked, or even 6 years to see if it worked. Like, it was like, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to do what it takes for as long as it takes until it takes, right? Like, that is the stick-to-itiveness that people lack. And a lot of times, I will say, like, I get different opportunities with big names or big shows. And I'm like, I am here for one reason. I refused to go away. I never went away. Like, and that creates some success, right? Like, sometimes it's just grit.
Yeah. But these things have become a distraction. These cell phones, tablets, the internet. And I teach this stuff all the time. And we create content for all of our clients. The problem is, it's become an umbilical cord. It's become our own little prison where people can find us wherever they want. Oh, Rob, you're in Europe. Okay, no problem. Hey, can you fix this for us? I'm on vacation. It doesn't matter. You answered your phone. So we have to learn to kind of distance ourselves away. When it's our time off, take the time off.
And I tell you, not at all to get political, because it's not political, but Ivanka Trump came out with a book years before her dad ran for president. And I actually railed against the book, nothing against the Trumps, but I railed against it because it was kind of a book for startups. And I was a little bit like irritated, got me a lot of media because, I went out there, was like, screw the big names, like, no offense to Ivanka's success, but like, her startup looked a little different than mine. Her thoughts going through her head when she laid in bed at night were different than mine. I'm going to guess, like, her ends were met. Right. But I tell you one thing that I got from that book that every entrepreneur, it just like hit home. And she said to vary your response times, right? So like, I actually never answer my phone. Everybody knows it because I like to know an agenda in advance. First, I don't like being awkward. So it's like, if somebody's calling, like, I got to know, right? Like, I got to know the agenda, but I just don't like to be on their agenda if I'm not sure what I'm agreeing to. So I never answer my phone. In fact, the only people that get through are my favorites in my phone. So like my mom, my dad, my kids, and my husband. And so, there's that, but she said, vary your response times so that, like, you ever have a client and like, you usually respond quickly. And so you haven't responded in 2 hours. So they resend the email and then they text you and then they Facebook message you about it. So I cured that by saying, like, hey, I'll get to it when I get to it. And I will say, there's no emergencies in my business. I'm not a cardiac surgeon. There's no emergencies. So I will try to get to you within 48 hours. And sometimes I'm quick and sometimes I will deliberately wait a day just so I'm not creating this, expectation that I'm glued to my phone waiting for their next email.
Well, the funny thing is that, I typically don't answer the phone unless it says scammers, and then I have a fun time and then make books about it. But, that used to irritate me to no end, was the phone constantly ringing and my home line ringing. And not only that, I have my phone synced to my computer and my tablet. So when one rang, they would all ring. And it was like, I can't get nothing done. And so I turn them all off, and
Yeah.
I throw everything into voicemail. And the nice thing about the new phones is they transcribe everything, and
Yep.
so it's like, hey, no, it's not important. I don't need to get back to you right away. And most of my clients respect that. you know.
Absolutely. Yes. And
Well,
what? 'Cause they're
I
running their
need
own
to,
business.
I need to put a caveat there, because my low paying clients, I love them to death, but they demand so much more than my high paying clients.
Always.
And it's getting to the point where it's like, you bother me one more time, I'm firing you, because it's not.
You have no idea the perilous territory you're in. Right? Because the low paying clients is like, we're not doing that for the money, right?
Yeah.
Like we are hoping to help you like move up our ladder. And
For what you're
yeah,
paying, I don't even want to smirk at you. No, that's going to cost extra. But
right.
I've been there, I've done that,
Yes.
and so I feel like I need to help them in some way. And then the problem is and I've become a little jaded. So for me, it was like, it's very easy to just tell people to F off, even though I don't like that word.
Yep.
But we've become this people like you and I, we just want to help people.
Yes.
And the more good that we do, we feel good, we just lighten up. But then there's always that one asshole who says, Rob, but I'm giving you all this money. Dude, all that money doesn't even pay for the last meal I ate. What do you?
Right.
And they just demand, so they suck the energy right out of us. And so that you got to say, what, at some point in time, you got to say, what, I love these little clients. They really help create my business, but I
Yep.
can no longer accept them, because
Yep.
the higher ones actually support what I'm doing. Leave me alone. They don't hassle me, and they appreciate what we're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I used to be, when I worked one-on-one with people, I was one of probably the highest paid coaches, at least on the East Coast back in, when I was still coaching one-on-one. And I had to be, right? Because I had a little bit of time to work. I need a lot of money. And so probably, 5 to 8, clients was a full practice for me. And now I've got members in every state and a handful of countries, and they're kind, they're low paying clients in terms of membership is less than $1,000 a month.
Right.
But I've deliberately done that, one, for scale, right? Like,
Yeah.
for breadth and reach for some other business goals, but also, I have I have pockets of time where I'm fully available, right? So 2 days a week, I'm fully available. I'm on the phone with my members, and one morning a month, not 2 days a week, 2 days a month, and then one morning a month, like I'm doing like a virtual co-working space. And so I found that if I give my all to them in little pockets of time, and there's just no possibility of reaching me any other way, any other time, then it's they really, they start to appreciate that. But that idea of training them, to not expect, to let them know and this is it's not a funny story, but one of my members years ago called me, and nobody calls me without an appointment, right? And I immediately answered, and she told me her name, and I said, I know, like, what's going on. And her husband had passed. I was the first call she made.
Wow.
And so, but she knew to call then, right? Not over, her sales weren't going the way she wanted or whatever. So I'm grateful now to be able to have, those pockets where I can serve those people who aren't paying me what my one-on-one clients used to.
And that's the key, because my whole goal when creating, my business, or businesses, plural, was about creating freedom. I was so tired of working on someone else's time, being an employee, and them calling the shots, them telling me, hey, this is when we want you in here. You got to work nights, you got to work, second shift, third shift, whatever. And I was like, no, I want to create my own lifestyle, my own time. If I want to work, for 3 hours, 3 in the morning to 6 in the morning, that's my choosing, not someone else's. And,
Yeah.
That is, I think, the prime reason why a lot of entrepreneurs create their own businesses, for freedom. And so when you structure your time like you did, where, hey, I'm available 2 times a month. These are the times, and for me, when I do podcasts or something, or coaching, I said, these are the times I have available. And I just had somebody call me from, contact me from Hawaii, and they're like 6 hours difference. So let's say they wanted to schedule 11 o'clock my time, Eastern Standard. I think it's 5 o'clock in the morning. And they're like, okay, no problem. I'll just get up early. And then I have people from Australia. They're up at like 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning and I'm like, that's how you create your own freedom, by scheduling time and whether it be packets of time, chunks of time, however you want to define it. And others who want to deal with you are going to comply with your time.
Absolutely. And I feel like too, though, what you've created and what I've created and the people that you coach, they have created sort of that competition free zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, and it's funny because I thought, I don't know why I thought this. I thought Hawaii was like 3 hours, different from me, and just like California or whatever. But I've got several members in Hawaii, and I realized, they love. I do my Tuesday trainings at 11 a.m. Eastern,
Mm-hmm.
and they love it because they can listen to it first thing, right? So it's like they get really excited about that. And but the truth is, we can't get Rob anywhere except going to Rob. You can't get Michelle anywhere else except going here. And so to me, it's not about a power play. It's about the fact that I have to make this business work for me, or otherwise I will quit it and nobody will get me.
Yeah.
Right. So it's such a great idea to build your business around, what your core, joy is, your core expertise, what your preferred time of working. And if you just say it like, oh yeah, well, here are the times I'm available. Some people might say, oh, would you ever do whatever? It's like, no, they just figure it out. It's not even really an issue. And it kind of reminds me of when my kids were small, like, you'd say things like, oh, well, and the playground's closed today, right? Or we're not allowed to go there today. And the kid's like, oh, okay, right? Yeah. Like they don't ask like who closed the playground or whatever, right? But if you just say, oh no, I'm not available, or here's the times I'm available, they work it out. They figure it out regardless of time zone, or if they're working full time or whatever it is. So, and I think that is a critical, huge lesson. If you are giving people what they can't get elsewhere, then a lot of the pricing issues, scheduling issues tend to go away, but that's a deliberate positioning, as you know.
Well, some people call it a selfish behavior. And if that's the case, then I'm all for it, because honestly, sometimes we need to be selfish. We need to be selfish with our own time. And we need to tell people, hey, you know what? This is my time. Leave me alone. I'll get to you when I get to you.
Yes. Yeah. But you know what, Rob, can I just say, as a female, and I'm a conservative female in a lot of ways, right? Like in a lot of ways, right? I grew up like red carpet Baptist and, all of that. But, codependency and women taking on like the responsibility for other people's everything is a real common problem for women. And over the past 18 months, what I have seen is a message that not only am I responsible for your health, but I'm also responsible for your income, your success, your feelings, right? I've never seen anything like it in a day in my life. Isn't this what feminists have been out there like railing against for forever? And now if we say, no, I'm responsible for my health, I'm responsible for my, my income, my success, my lifestyle, all of a sudden, I mean, it's outrageous behavior that we would take full responsibility for everything under our roof and no responsibility for somebody else's.
Right. Yeah.
This used to be codependency. And now it's like championed. I'm without words.
Well, the pandemic has triggered everybody, and in such weird ways too, because I can post something that's I feel won't offend anybody, and I'll have people, they're all triggered, and I'm like, what the heck? Next thing I know, I'm in Facebook jail. I'm like, wait a minute, what did I even say?
Right. Or like you say something and it has nothing to do with the pandemic, right? It's something totally unrelated. And you'll get people like arguing with each other over mask or vaccine. I'm like, this is a freaking post about my dog. You know,
Yeah.
it has nothing to do. And but people are going to Facebook almost looking for their next hit of outrage.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's almost like if things are good and, and comfortable and healthy and cozy, they go looking for their next hit of outrage. And it's almost like a person who's been raised in an abusive house. They can't tolerate a healthy relationship because it doesn't get their blood boiling, doesn't, get their adrenaline going. And I feel like when things are normal and calm, it seems to me like people go to social media looking for a fight.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have never, I think it was only about a week ago when Facebook started actually publishing some of their community standards. I would go on and like click on the link. Oh, wait, it says community standards. I never saw that before.
That's right.
The problem with community standards is it levels the playing field for everybody, so nobody gets offended about anything, which they still do. And then, but as an entrepreneur, we don't need community standards. We can have like a set of 5 rules and that's it. And we can pick and choose who we want to deal with. And we don't have to accept everybody. And I think that's the problem with a lot of entrepreneurs is that they think that anybody that can breathe, that has a wallet full of money, should be their client.
Those are some of my favorite posts of yours as an aside, right? I love all of your posts. And like sometimes I'll sit there and I'll read them to my husband, but the ones that you are like, where somebody's like, oh, but I want to pay you money. You're like, no, that's not an option, right? I'm not working with you, right? It's kind of like no shoe, well, in my area, no shoes, no shirt. In our area, it says no problem. But in other areas, it says, no service. And it's like, we get to choose. And, I joke when I talk to women, I'm like, we say who, we say when, we say how much, right? And that's there's a lot of comfort in that.
Yeah. But it's this whole 4-week term has turned into almost 2 years, and it affects people. It affects people at the core, and I have to admit that even I got affected, because the fact is that even though I've been working from home for a dozen years, just trying to go out to a restaurant and not having the ability to sit down in the restaurant, or wearing a mask, or doing this or doing that. And it was like, great. For the last 6 months, all I did was go to the grocery store and the gas station. I want human involvement.
Yes.
I don't care if I have to sit down and you bring somebody in. I will tip them graciously, and I will tip a lot, because I know that they need to earn a month, and a living. But I need that human interaction. And I think that's what we all want to some degree. But trying to start a business during this pandemic was very hard for a lot of people, and a lot of people gave up. Having unrealistic rules, mandates that were illegal to begin with, which shut down a lot of businesses. I have a local burger joint that's here, and we're a college town. Well, instead of shutting down Monday and Tuesdays, which is typical because in restaurants it's a slow day anyway, they would shut down Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I'm like, I would just not open up until 4 o'clock and then work the evenings. And all the other restaurants were so packed, so busy, and this burger joint's closed. And I get that. That's freedom. You want that. But don't you also want to kind of, I would just open on the weekends and make all my money and forget about the first 5 days.
Well, this brings us back to what you said, like making those quote unquote selfish decisions, right? Like it brings us back to that, because they've got to know, what their goal is, right? They've got to know, and they've got to be able to, to ebb and flow with whatever's going on in their business. And it's when we start to try to like, especially in the pandemic, like try to guess what's coming next, right? Instead of just sticking to our core, like what's our goal here? Is it make the best burgers? Is it to be the social place? Is it to, what's the plan here? And then we're entrepreneurs, like we'll figure it out, right?
Mhm.
We'll find a way. But it's like the burger joint you're talking about, they almost forgot, right? Like we need you there on Friday afternoons. The working people are driving home, they're tired. And for the social aspect, I am like a step above a hermit, honest to God, right? Like I have very little need for social interaction. I'm one of those, I could live if my husband was with me and I had books and some way to write, I'd be happy for a very long time. But even I was starting to feel, I was like, man, when's another concert? Do you know, I've been to one concert in my life. I was 19. If I'm looking for a concert, like something has happened in the universe. We just got so isolated, and it led people even further, particularly entrepreneurs, into this online kind of cesspool, right? And I get it. I lead an online business, right? But it led us back, and it kept it so dirty and stale, and nothing was moving. And it got people more like in that mindset that their success was going to be created via fancy funnels or like fancy footwork, instead of like just the basic principles of talking to people, meeting with people, offering to help.
Yeah, going back to concerts, I would love to go to a concert. The last concert I went to was 1987, Bon Jovi in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lifetime ago, but be nice to go back.
Yeah, we're having them. I live in North Carolina, but the closest amphitheater is in Virginia Beach, and we're having concerts now there. And if you call, they say it's like no COVID protocol. There's thousands of people out there, and we've been pretty free. We've been pretty free the whole time. I live on the Outer Banks, so we shut down the bridge for a couple of weeks. Nobody could come in or out, but other than that, we've been pretty free here. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I talk about social interaction, but going to concerts with that many people, that's too many people.
I think so too. Yeah, I like the lunches out, I like the dinners out, just to kind of get in a different environment. And you eat differently, right? Like at home, you just kind of eat and go into the next thing. And I love a dinner out. And when our favorite restaurant was shut down for a long time, and we were devastated, but we bring $100 bill every time we go now, just to give our server on top of whatever else they make, because we're so grateful to them for showing up. A lot of people aren't.
Yeah, we had another local restaurant reopen after 9 months closed, and they double all their prices, and that's not a way to win back clients.
No.
You got to be friendly, you got to be nice, and yeah, gouging them isn't going to make things up. But how do you, as a woman, and focusing on other women as clients, how do you help them overcome the pandemic mentality to kind of get back into this focus on not only making money, but having a prosperous business?
Yeah. So all of my business, pre-pandemic, during pandemic, if we ever get post-pandemic, right, has always focused on bringing them back to the core principles of business. And that does a lot, right? Because it cuts through a lot of the stuff that they're like, we got people who don't have clients, and they've got a virtual assistant, like doing, why do you have a virtual assistant? You have no clients, right? And so it's like, kind of almost like deprogramming them from their last coach or blueprint or whatever they bought, right? And bringing them into the principles, because principles are true all the time, no matter where they're applied. And so even if you're hit, you're in an industry where you're hit, really, really badly during the pandemic, like a restaurant, right? It's like one of our restaurants was, they had the name is Butcher's Son, right? And when they were closed, they wanted to keep their contracts with like local farmers and local fishers, right? But they didn't, just all that meat would spoil, right? And so you know what they did? they started a new thing called Butcher's Box. And you
Wow.
could just buy the meat directly from them, right? And then they started doing like family meals. This is a really nice restaurant. You don't typically don't take kids and stuff. They did like, family meals, and they were just so responsive. Like, what can we do, right? So the first thing, it's like, I understand the challenges different industries are having. What can you do? My philosophy is there's always something that can be done by me today, regardless of what I'm facing, right? So what can you do? What are the options? Like, a lot, if we kind of get them out of that mindset of fear, then we can brainstorm again and we can come up with amazing options. The Butcher's Son is a great example of what restaurants could have been doing. They weathered it. The prices did, increase a little bit when they opened back up, but nothing where you feel like you're being gouged at
Right.
all. And so it's like, focus on what you can do, be creative, which means you got to like get out of that fear mind and then start taking action every day. I mean, there's nothing quite like action every day to build. It doesn't matter. A great marriage, a marriage you're proud of, a body you're proud of, a business you're proud of, an income that you can, enjoy life with. It's just, and I think sometimes we're in so much of the one day mindset or like the big day mindset, or like how, we have people teaching, have a 6-figure event, weekend or whatever. And I look at the events they're planning, I'm like, well, you daggone sure better have 6 figures. If not, you're 40 grand in the hole,
Right.
right? Like, based on what you're teaching. But it's just, I think just coming back to basics and daily action. And I think that's what it's all
And
about.
one of the things that I try to emphasize on people is don't fall in love with the gurus. Take advice from real people who are in the trenches, that do this every single day, that will give you the right advice. Because the gurus, a lot of times, they're all in it for the money, because they got to buy the next Hummer, the next Lamborghini, or they got to fix their resort somewhere in Tahiti. And I don't have all that. I have a family. I have 6 kids. I got grandkids. I'm going to give you the real life advice that I've learned growing through this business, and that's going to save you some valuable time.
I'm so grateful to hear you say that, because I I'm so disheartened by people who go that like guru route,
Mhm.
right? Because for me, I was always questioning, like, okay, well, like, how, so they're getting paid maybe because they're famous.
Right.
Let's just, how did they get famous? Is that a route available to you?
Right.
Right? Like, I don't want to be famous,
Right.
So like, but is that a route that's available to you? Because if it's not, then what could they possibly teach you? They didn't do it. They didn't gut it out,
Right.
right? Or just like the Ivanka Trump book. I mean, nothing against her. I happen to like her, but
Right.
like, to teach startups was come on, right?
Right.
It was a little bit
And
obtuse,
she was probably handed a couple $1 million, and
right? When I went to bed at night, I ran numbers, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, and back then, you had to wait for the check in the mail. It
right.
wasn't like digital money. And then your bank might hold it for 2 days, unless you could hopefully find, they make things, the national bank, you go to their bank and cash it, right? This is what I went to. I'm guessing that some of these gurus that are writing the books that everybody's reading and championing and quoting, they've never laid in bed at night thinking that, right? Like, so I'm so glad you said that. Sometimes I feel a little bit sorry for myself, like, because I choose to work with women entrepreneurs. Like, I understand women are kind of visual, and we go to the glossy and the beautiful, and it's not that I don't know how to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, my mom sent me to finishing school. It didn't take, but I know the stuff, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know. I feel sometimes so disheartened that people aren't questioning what you just said
Right.
about the gurus and what could they possibly learn.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of stuff they've just learned. Now they're turning around and trying to teach it, and they're making millions of dollars. And here I am teaching this stuff to people
Right.
the last few years, 10 years, 20 years. And it's
Right.
like, I feel like I need to be Gibbs on NCIS and just start Gibbs smacking people.
Right. I tell you, even my own parents, who I love dearly, and they're my number one fans, right? I kid you not. My mom sent me this video of a man. My parents own a construction company, right? And sent me a video of this man who was like doing this motivational talk, essentially about taking action every day. If I'm not this is what I preach day in and day out. So my mom sent me, she's like, yeah, I love this guy. You've got to follow him. Right. So I Google him. He's out of business.
Yeah.
So I sent to my parents, I said, well, he's out of business anymore, and I said, and gosh, I wish we knew someone who made videos like this every day. Right. But it's a seductive thing, I guess.
And talking about videos, and I know everybody's on TikTok and Snapchat and all these fancy things, but for me, it's not about making a video go viral, because you can't take a viral video to the bank.
That's right.
If you make one video and it's heartfelt and it's and even if it's raw and there's a lot of mistakes in it, you get one client from that. That's all you need.
Yes. And I'm not on TikTok. And actually I am on Snapchat. My kids put me, I do it so I can see the map of the kids, but that's all I'm on Snapchat.
Just to track your kids.
Yeah, of course. Right.
That's what the phones are for.
Well, I just realized that I'm like the most non-technical online entrepreneur, right? My oldest just put me on like the Find My thing, so I can like literally, and I love that. I just found that 2 weeks ago. But if you ever see me doing one of those hideous reels,
point here.
Geez, slap me the next time you see me. I mean, these are grown people.
Yeah.
To this. And I'm like, if that's how I had to make money, there's a lot of things I do before that. A lot.
Yeah. It's to me, it's so degrading and
humiliating.
Yeah. I don't, they're doing it just to get, viral followers. I'm like, to me, none of them are going to be your customer, so why do it? But they like, again, it's another shiny object. It's just something that makes them feel good. They feel like, hey, well, look at this, I got 1 million followers. Okay.
And that's where it's like, I know Dan Kennedy talks about like, I forget how he words it, but I call it like false measurement or false goals, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like we start to use our business to, pat our ego or make us feel accepted or make us feel affirmed. And I'm like, you know what? Like, you should sort all that first, right? Mm-hmm. And then you come to your desk, so all that sort, I don't need friends for my business. I don't need applause. I don't need affirmation. I already accept myself. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm not looking for people I don't even know what you'd say to a video like that. Like I can barely watch it because it's so awkward. Mm-hmm. And that awkward's my number one nemesis. If it's awkward, I will not do it. And so I can't even watch it. You get embarrassed for people. Yeah. And so if you ever see me on TikTok, like it's like a sign, like I've been kidnapped, come get me, come get people to look for me. I'm serious.
Now we have to get you on Snapchat. No, I would never watch it. I don't get it. So I stick to the core. I stick to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, sometimes Instagram when I'm bored. And those are the things that most entrepreneurs fail to understand, is that you don't have to be all things to all people. You don't have to be everywhere that everybody is. You pick and choose where you're going to be, who you accept, and what you're going to do for them and for what money. And, that's the plan. That's the goal. And it's all about freedom. So, so how do people find you? Where do they go? And, what kind of money should they give you?
Oh, yeah. So the green money is what they should give me, right? Don't send Bitcoin, none of that, right? But yeah, you can always find me. I actually created a site, tribeofdrivenwomen.com. Wow. And it has all my free stuff there, right? So it just kind of redirects to a page on my course site. But if you go to tribeofdrivenwomen.com, you can find your own platform. I'm on the same platforms you're on. So Facebook is my most, that's where I like to spend most of my time, but I am on LinkedIn. My team does Instagram for me. And then I try to do like kind of behind the scenes, which is kind of boring. It's like pictures of my socks or my dogs or, something like that. But that's where you can find me. You can connect with me and even message me directly right from that tribeofdrivenwomen.com.
Well, that is just awesome. Let's all go there right now. I'm typing it,
Yes.
so you should too.
Awesome.
As long as I can spell right. Let's see. Well, as I'm looking, you guys can finish and finish my thought, because evidently I can't. But anyway, we will see you on the next episode, because I'm all out of thought. But I want you guys to go to tribeofdrivenwomen.com, find out all there is to know about Michelle. And I just pulled it up and it says, you found us. So once you're there, you can. But anyway, we will catch you on the next episode. And this is what makes Michelle an e-hero, because she's always willing to give. She's always willing to show up when I ask her to, or from, all you clients that hire her. She's going to watch your back. She's going to be there. So
That's great.
Thank you guys. And we'll see you on next episode. Adios.
Thank you so much for having me.